We are getting set for the Stanley Cup Playoffs. Round one kicks off on Saturday between the Stars and the Avs. And we've also got the Jets and the Blues to kick things off. We are going to break it all down, starting with the Western Conference. And with me to help do that is Dave Pagnotta and Dennis Bernstein. And guys, when we found out the final playoff bracket, my first reaction was, wow, there are some spicy storylines. So let's jump right into it and talk about the Jets and the Blues. And the Jets were stellar in the regular season. They've got Connor Hellebuck, but you can't undermine that late push from the St. Louis Blues. What do you guys think of this series?
Yeah, this is not going to be a walk in the park for the Winnipeg Jets by any stretch. I like them, but with the way that things have been going with St. Louis, especially in the second half of the season since Four Nations, you can't count them out by any stretch. Now, they've got a little bit of injury issues that they're going to have to deal with, but I think the potency that the Winnipeg Jets bring, along with the goaltending, is going to be a challenge for the St. Louis Blues and their crew. They have a lot of weapons, although they can bite you in a variety of different areas. It's going to be interesting to see how they combat a St. Louis team that's riding a high, even though they didn't maintain that pace. I mean, eventually we're going to lose at some point, but I think they're going to provide a little bit of headaches, for the Jets. But I think there's just too much depth and quality of depth on this Winnipeg team, DB, that I think this one's theirs for the taking.
Well, this is the irony series because the winner of the Four Nations in net is playing for an American team,
right?
And the American who lost to the Canadian is playing for the Canadian team. Best case scenario for the Jets, they get pushed hard by St. Louis, maybe 6 or 7 games, and it preps them for the next round, which will be even more difficult, the winner of Dallas, Colorado. Right? Worst case scenario, the Jets go home after one round like they did last season. Right? This is not going to be an easy one. Of the two wildcard teams, clearly St. Louis is better. Right? They're more depth. They have the better goaltending. And do you think the Bruins would want their coach back? You think Jim Montgomery would be welcome in Boston now? This is a dangerous first round. As dangerous as Colorado was for Winnipeg, this team is just as dangerous the way they're playing down the stretch.
Well, you mentioned Colorado, the Avalanche, and the Stars. You've got to talk about Mikko Rantanen and that big move there and what the Stars are dealing with as well with injuries. Colorado beefed up at the deadline. We've got a lot of underlying storylines there, but you have to think that Dallas is a solid team, but they are battling some big injuries and some late injuries that happened over the last week.
Yeah, Jason Robertson being knocked out of action in the final game of the season is going to potentially affect their game plan and their attack. Yeah, brutal indeed. A tough one for them. Now, yes, they got Tyler Seguin back in action. He's ahead of schedule, significantly ahead of schedule. Miro Heiskanen, the anticipation was he would be back in the first round. Depending who you talk to, there's a little bit of hesitancy with respect to what his timeline actually is, so we'll see where that ends up going. He would obviously be a huge boost for this club. We also have to figure out what's going on with Jason Robertson. Gabriel Landeskog is available in this series. It looks like he's going to get into action at some point. Is it game 1? Is it going to be game 3, 5, whatever it ends up being? You're going to see a little bit of extra juice in Colorado because of the fact that their captain is back in action. This is going to be a shot-for-shot series. This is probably going to be one of the most entertaining, if not the most entertaining series in the first round. You have the different storylines, as you mentioned, Kate, with Rantanen being the top lead there. But this is going to be a hard-fought battle. This is going 7. I'd be surprised if it doesn't.
No. Robertson, here's the thing about injuries. What I've learned, week to week is never 1 week. You're talking 2 weeks, 3 weeks. That puts him out for the series, Robertson. I like Colorado before he got hurt because they had this guy named McCall who scored 30 goals from the blue line, and they don't have Heiskanen. And the last time I checked, McKinnon, Brock Nelson, Charlie Coyle, Jack Drury down the middle, right? No, I'm sorry. The only issue I have with Colorado, and they fixed this in the series. How many teams that are contenders fix their goaltending situation in the space of 6 weeks? That's what Chris McFarland did. He's done a magnificent job here. Here's the problem. Blackwood and Wedgwood, they have many postseason wins as me, Kate, and Dave Pagnotta does. They've never won a playoff game, either one of these guys. So that's the fatal flaw of this team. If they wind up going out, it's only because of the goaltending or they get injured in the playoffs. I think this is a shorter series. I think Colorado's got a major advantage with respect to health and just pound for pound down the middle as well.
All right, DB, you've got the spice today. I want to know about the Golden Knights and the Minnesota Wild. You've got to think that Minnesota's coming in with nothing to lose. Just go for it, give it your all. And then Vegas, poised to do something great here. They've been a solid team for a number of years, and they've made good playoff pushes, obviously won a cup. So are they poised to do it again, or is the underdog story the way to go here?
Yeah, well, you say Minnesota has nothing to lose because guess what? They're going to lose, and they're going to lose decisively.
I knew the spice was coming.
Yeah, I think this is a sweep here because Vegas has a chip on their shoulder because they went out in 7 in the first round last year, and because they're now healthier, and this is the worst matchup for the Wild because of the physicality and the size of Vegas. It's the worst matchup they could have got of any of the teams in the West. I think this is a relatively easy. I don't think this helps Vegas in the next round because I think they're going to breeze by that team, even with Eriksson Ek and Kaprizov coming back. But those players aren't big physical players. It's just too much size, too much physicality, and they're playing too much. They're playing too well down the stretch. So I like Vegas relatively easy in this round.
Yeah, it's going to be definitely a tough battle, without question, for the Minnesota Wild. And yeah, you got the fun storyline of Marc-Andre Fleury's final run. We'll see how much, if any, action he ends up getting between the pipes for the Wild. But yeah, it's just that I think they're too beefed up. There's too much depth on this Vegas team to combat for the Wild to combat against. It's going to be a tough one for Minnesota in this one. Physicality, as DB said, definitely going to play a factor for the Golden Knights. But I think at the same time, it just looks like it's going to be just I don't know about a sweep. Maybe it goes 5. They finish it off at home, Vegas does. But I certainly think that this is, if you're looking at the most favorable matchups in the first round across both conferences, Vegas probably got the best one.
All right, well, the last one, it's a matchup we've seen a number of times before. This will be the 4th consecutive year that Edmonton and the Kings face off in the playoffs. Connor McDavid came out and said, we're good to go. Don't worry about the injuries. They're without Matthias Ekholm, but they expect Draisaitl and McDavid to be full go, and we know what kind of damage they can do. Now, different than the last few seasons is the Kings have home ice advantage. Do we feel better about the Kings' success rate, 0 for 3 so far, or do we think it's going to be the Oilers once again?
These are two very different teams than last year. Very different. And yeah, look, I know the Kings only lost 5 at home in regulation, and they lost one last night. They just gave it didn't matter, right? But here's the thing. You want to talk about home ice as being, like, the Kings need every advantage mentally in the series, so this helps. But if you go back to the last 3 series, you know what happened? The Kings split games 1 and 2 at Edmonton every time. So what does that mean? That means in a 5-game series, they had 3 games at home, and they couldn't do the job. But here's the difference. Connor McDavid can say this team is healthy, but you don't have Matthias Ekholm, so you're not healthy. You're not the same team that went to Game 7 against the Florida Panthers. Look what they've got up front. Like, I don't know, Vander Kane's coming back. He hasn't played in a year. Is he going to be any good? Like, guys like Podkolzin and Kapanen on the top 6 and Connor Brown, although Connor Brown's played better. I'm worried about Connor and Leon. If they win the series, that they'll both hurt their backs from carrying the rest of this roster. Jeff Skinner, great. He played a playoff game. He's going to play one on Monday night. No, this team isn't as good. And here's the thing about the Kings. They are a better team. Last year, it was a one-line team. Quentin Byfield was a left wing last year. Now he's driving play with his own line and Kevin Fiala, who scored 35 goals. They're bigger. They went out and got Edmondson. They went out and got Janot, who's now hurt. And I always keep saying the 4th line for the Kings. Last year, the 4th line center was Blake Lizotte. He's 5'9" and 175. This year, it's Sammy Helenius. And if you haven't seen Sammy Helenius play, he's 6'6" and 205. The guy next to him is Jeff Ballot, who's taking Janot's place as the right winger and the tough guy. Jeff Ballot's 6'5" and 200 pounds. And guess what? His brother's a UFC fighter. This is a bigger, better team the Oilers are facing. I know they're slight favorites because they should be slight favorites. They're not much better than this team. I just don't like the way they play defense. I don't think Skinner's been as good as net. This is the best shot for the Kings to win against this team and eliminate the Demons for the last 3 seasons.
Yeah, I agree with DB in this one. This is going to be a really tough go for the Edmonton Oilers in this one. They're a different team. And Connor, like you said, he could say everything. And I know everyone in Edmonton is clamoring about Connor and Leon kind of leading the way. the difference with this club is their depth hasn't been as potent as it was last season. All season long, even when healthy, their guys haven't been as dangerous, the secondary guys, as they were last season. With how Los Angeles plays, it's going to be a much tougher battle for the Edmonton Oilers. I like LA. I think they might be pulling this off this year finally. But in all honesty, these are, as DB said, two different teams, but I think a better LA team versus a lesser Oiler team compared to last season. It might be fourth time's a charm for the Kings.
All right, we'll have to wait and see. But that is a wrap on your Western Conference preview. We do have some picks. The entire fourth period team made their picks. That's up on the website, so check it out. We'll see if any of us are correct or if it's as bad as my master's pool. Thanks so much, guys. Dave Pagnotta, Dennis Bernstein, and I'm your host, Kate Petterson. Thanks for watching here on The Latest.